I'm Alicia.
And I'm Maddie.
And welcome to the Fangirl Diaries, a podcast where we talk about our obsessions,
Reminisce about our teen icons,
and explore the books, movies, and shows that made us the incredibly nerdy 30-somethings that we now are.
Hey, Alicia.
Hello. I have been told to be more serious today because this is a serious subject matter podcast.
It is pretty serious.
And you're right, because I'm still on a bit of a high from Taylor Swift. And, I don't know about you, I'm going to have to take a Taylor Swift cleanse. Because
I'm still listening to her
I know,
every day.
This is it. I'm just because we talked about her last week and we were, listening, and she's everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're doing something a little bit different this time. We're back to, as you said, regular programming a minute ago.
No special guests this week.
No, we've not got Ben this week. Has Ben seen this film?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure.
I was going to say, who's not seen this film?
Indeed.
So what are we talking about today?
We are talking about one of the greatest movies of at least the 90s, if not all time, Titanic.
I'm so glad that you went there because when we get into its accolades, that's how I feel. I was watching it again thinking, but this is one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
And it has its critics and its haters and its people that want to, recall its various Oscars, but they are wrong.
They are wrong.
This is one of the great films. It really is.
It's an epic in every sense of that word. Mm-hmm. It's just I can hardly think of any other movies that live up to its epic nature in the way that it's put together, in its story, its romance, the drama, the music. It's just huge scale.
Yep.
It's just an epic.
I texted you yesterday saying, it has no comparison.
Yeah.
And I stand by that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the evening. We always get quite hyped up about the podcast and we're going to start quite lively about this. But there is a high chance that one of us may cry on this discussion.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
When I was watching it again, I thought, why have I done this to myself? Why? And we are going to get into how often we watched it as teenagers, but I honestly look back on that thinking, why did we do this to ourselves?
Well, I think I've got some insight there. I've got some insight there.
Well, then let's start with our origin story. So we are talking about James Cameron's, is it 1997?
I think it's 97, yeah.
God, it's old.
Yeah.
1997 movie, Titanic. And let's start from the beginning, which is that neither you or I went to see this in the cinema. We were 6 years old.
Yeah, we would have been too young. I think if our parents had taken us to that would have been a big mistake on their parts.
I don't know how they would have done because this was, the good old proper days of when this is before 12A. Titanic was a 12.
Yeah, makes sense.
You could not go if you were not 12.
No.
And this is also before streaming platforms or illegal downloads.
And before the age where we would have been trying to sneak into 12s or anything.
Yes.
We were still way too young for that.
I had no concept of this film being on the horizon, but I do remember it coming out because my parents went to see it at the cinema.
Ah.
I'm willing to bet that they have no memory of this and that I have a really strong memory of this, which is that we had, I say a babysitter, it was either my granddad or my aunt. And that was always good fun. That was always a sort of evening in and of itself.
Yeah.
And it was quite rare that my parents would take themselves to the cinema. And I remember it because I remember us just being awake when they came home. Mm-hmm. And you know how it's really bizarre when you notice as a small child that your parents have been really affected by something?
Yeah, your parents are somehow different and they're not just acting the same as they do every day.
No. I really remember sitting on the stairs and them coming back in from this film called Titanic, visibly shaken.
Interesting.
And sort of mum reacting in the way she would now to a film that was very moving, being like, I can't. It was just very, I just need to recover.
I can imagine your mum being exactly like that.
Yeah. And having the very normal reaction to this incredibly, like, imagine seeing, well, as we will talk about how we did, Titanic for the first time. You do need a sort of cooling off post-traumatic period.
Definitely.
Like, but I remember that. I remember seeing it and then put it out of mind for a few years. You have no memory of anything.
No, I don't think I ever remember it coming out, and I'm pretty sure my parents may not have seen it in the cinema. But no, I only remember kind of years later just almost like knowing of it as this big movie that I hadn't seen, and just like being aware that it was this kind of cultural moment, and the music, and just being aware that it was something that I hadn't seen, but that I wanted to see.
And you got to the point of when we were watching it together as teenagers, you hadn't seen it by that point.
Yeah, right? I think so. I think I probably saw it, I think reasonably young still. I think we were probably 11 or 12. I reckon that's probably when I saw it at a sleepover.
So my first viewing of it predates the sleepover setting.
Yeah.
But only by a little bit. And of course, once the video came out, and we're talking, sorry listeners, if like some people have no concept of this technology, but we're talking the video.
Yeah, like VHS.
The VHS. Yeah. Once the VHS came out, and my parents got hold of that sort of right away, then it was one of the very early films that I remember being allowed to see that was a 12. And it was described as such, as a sort of, this was a stay up late occasion. The film is 2 hours, 57 minutes.
That's crazy.
And this wasn't something like The Wizard of Oz, where my parents strategically cut off the first half hour. You know, we watched from when Dorothy arrived, basically. Yeah. This was the whole movie, all the way through. And not my sister, who was younger. So this had the double sort of special standard.
So your parents like showed it to you?
Yes, they did. Ooh. Yes. I just bet they have no memory of this whatsoever. And I remember it so vividly. I remember the snack I ate. I remember thinking, oh, good, it's long. You know, it'll be past bedtime. So I must have been about 9, I reckon, at this stage, and aware that I was watching a 12, which was a big deal. And thinking this was both desperately upsetting and one of the most exciting experiences of all time. Yeah. Because at like 9, this was the naughtiest movie I'd ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, it's pretty sexy.
I remember thinking, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you watch it back now and I'm like, it's so tame. But I remember being like, Jesus Christ, what is going on in this film? And then, of course, the minute we were able to get together and watch it as, 10, 11-year-olds?
Yeah, so we started having sleepovers probably in year 7, so at the age of 10, 11 onwards. And I don't know whether it was you specifically that brought it, but probably could have been. And yeah, I remember watching it for the first time at a sleepover, I think maybe at Claire's house?
It was at Claire's house. I remember this too.
I think it might be at Claire's house.
This was about watch number 1 of about 20. Yeah. This was the one where we were all so broken that I think Claire's mum came to like check on us.
Yeah.
There was sort of mass hysteria, mass crying. And for people who have no concept of who Claire is, I mean, why would you if you're a listener to this podcast? This was the friend of ours that had the big television. She had other qualities. That's not why we were
also
friends.
Like Lord of the Rings, which was a great plus.
Exactly. But there was something about the technology at Claire's house, which was a widescreen television and I believe a DVD player, maybe one of the first ones. And this was even when one of us had a version of Titanic where this film is so long, it was on 2 discs. Really? I remember us having to sort of
switch over
disc or something. But we watched it then with some new sort of novices for the film, and everybody was like distraught.
Completely destroyed.
But we did this on repeat. Yeah. This became one of the 2 most watched sleepover movies. It's certainly in my memory, and it sounds like yours as well.
Definitely. And I remember being a big like proponent for watching it. Like if we were choosing the films and like trying to like, I'd always be there like, I want to watch Titanic.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it comes to like what you were saying about like why did we put ourselves through this? And I think for me, I just remember like that emotional release of just like physically just like weeping, and like as a group us just being completely destroyed. Like that emotion, like as a young teenager, is quite like therapeutic. I think I quite enjoyed the feeling of just being allowed to just be swept up in something so much and it being okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is comparable to the discussions we were having on like our emo podcast. Which episode was, sorry, not emo podcast, the episode of this podcast, our only podcast, where we talk about emo. And that there was something about, in that case, that kind of collective euphoria. But in this case, it was like collective, like, mourning and catharsis. And I can see why. Almost reminds me of those bits from like The Crucible where the girls get together and go hysterical.
Yes.
This was an exact example of a bunch of 11... we were watching this film from 11 through to 15, I would say, on repeat. And we would all get together and just cry.
Yeah.
Like hysterically at the end of it. Because I was thinking, why did we do this to ourselves? Other sleepover movies were like, Mean Girls or, funny stuff. But the top two untouchable ones that we would watch every time was Titanic and The Notebook.
Yeah, devastating.
Same thing. Comes with warning.
Although I think I cried a lot more in Titanic than The Notebook.
Yeah. The Notebook is, you cry at the end, in the last sort of sequence, really.
Yeah.
Titanic, I'm crying for the last 40 minutes.
Yeah, and also just the emotion of the music just would get you swept up way earlier. You'd suddenly hear the theme and you'd be like, oh no, I'm gone again. Oh dear, what's happened?
You were like the worst. It's always you.
Oh my god!
That bit would play over some sort of absolutely random bit.
Yeah, they're just like looking out over the ocean or whatever.
There's just some like secondary cast members walking around the deck and the theme tune's playing and like, I'm like, oh, Maddie's crying again. She's gone.
But that's because music gets me.
Well, I think this was your point about the epicness and our collective point about this being an untouchable contender for one of the best movies of all time. That there is no department on this film that is not doing its job.
Yeah.
Hence the bazillion Oscars.
Yeah.
Of like music, incomparable. Costuming, sensational. Acting, incredible across the board.
Effects.
Effects!
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Nobody is letting everybody else down.
No.
Like, not at all. And I'm sure I'm watching some sort of digitally remastered version when I'm streaming it on Disney+. But when I watched it the other day, I was like, this does not look the almost 30 years old that this is.
No. And I think, in terms of its, like, epic nature as well, I guess there was a genre of, like, epic movie in the 90s and noughties that, like, tried to exist. And you did get other disaster movies, but I don't think I could name one that quite brought in that level of, like, it's the mixture of a romance that is taken very seriously and is like a core part of the story. And everyone loves like a sweeping romance, but often we do it with like a bit of, I don't know, cynicism or, but this is like it just is an epic romance.
Yeah. Plus
the epic disaster story. And sometimes you'll get disaster movies, but they wouldn't have that other part. Or if they did, it's like secondary. And yeah, just like bringing all of that together, I don't think that there's anything I can think of that quite gets it. There were other movies at the time, like I think people would maybe compare it to like Pearl Harbor or...
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Other, like maybe like disaster... like, I don't know, alien movies or like,
I think you're right in the sense that the late 90s, early noughties was when we were still doing epic films, whether it was disaster or action, like,
yes,
before we get into the age of absolutely turd-like millions of pounds wasted useless blockbusters and sequels and, rubbish. That this was where we had, films like, quality films like Armageddon. I like Pearl Harbor as well.
Yeah.
Deep Impact. You and I just really like our space-based movies. Gladiator.
Yes.
These big films were winning Oscars and were doing sort of big epic well. And of course, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So it was in that sort of space, but I'm not sure there is something that comparable as, I think Pearl Harbor is a really good close shout. Please message us, podcast listeners, if you have a comparison point, where this is effectively two films spliced together, but in a way that works, which is you have the romance film.
Yeah.
And then you have a disaster film.
Yeah.
And they are stacked on top of each other. And yet not boring.
Yeah, they both enhance the other.
Yes.
You wouldn't be as interested in the disaster if there wasn't the romance. And the disaster part adds to the romance because you know that it's kind of tragic from the beginning.
Yes, exactly. If you watch The Day After Tomorrow, you don't think, oh, but the love between Jake Gyllenhaal and Emmy Rossum.
No.
It's not really as thoroughly rendered as in this, where I love their love so much that I can't bear it, along with the disaster movie.
Yeah.
And both are completely quality. And it's long, but it doesn't feel long. It doesn't feel boring at all. Actually, you say epic romance, but when I was rewatching it, I had to catch myself and think, sorry, hang on a second, didn't you just meet 24 hours ago?
Oh, yeah.
When you actually look at the time frame, Jack and Rose have about 6 conversations total before the iceberg, basically. If we think pre-Berg, there's about 6 or 7 scenic exchanges. And that's it. And yet we think of it as this a completely epic love.
You're right. And I guess that's because what it's really about is the class discussion, right? It's really about the distinction between the classes on the boat, between Jack and Rose's examples of those, of Rose wanting to escape the confines of her class. And so you're able to have something so sweeping and epic because it's that escapism for her and learning about a new way of living, and that she just she wants to escape the confines of this engagement that she doesn't want to be in, and she's trapped. And so Jack is kind of both a romantic partner but also showing her a different way of living.
Yep. When you explain it, it sounds so incredibly teenage and hormonal, but it's interesting that it does not hit in that way specifically, or that's not why we liked it. So unless you feel differently, I don't remember at those sleepovers thinking, oh, but this is one of those films about a teenager, because she's 17. The character of Rose is described as being 17. I love Kate Winslet, but she does not look 17.
No.
But we weren't watching it for 17-year-old against the system in a way that
she felt like an adult.
She felt like an adult, that's right.
She felt like an adult making adult decisions.
Yes. So sometimes when this gets explained, or we think about the character of Rose, it sounds like a sort of teenage romance, and yet it isn't at all. That's not how it hit us at all. And even the way we're talking about it, it wasn't that this was a sort of that we were just in it for the romance. That wasn't the only thing.
No.
The kind of epic nature of it way outdoes just their storyline.
Yeah, and if we're talking about other things that it does just really well, is I remember that despite all of the depressing nature and despite the epic nature, it has moments that are quite funny. It's just very well written. You're saying all the departments. The script writers also just wrote a really tight script, even though it's really long. It just what's the name of the older posh lady?
Molly Brown. The unsinkable Molly Brown.
Yeah. She's great. And a lot of the interactions within that high society are really funny. And I think it's it's well it kind of creates a world that is very believable, and that lightness is what makes the tragedy make more sense and kind of feel more real.
Yeah, that's so right. Epic movies that are bad and feel like they're on the one hand very long and lengthy, but on the other hand very flimsy.
Yeah, and you just have a load of people like giving speeches about how, like, you know, they've got to do this thing to save the blah blah blah, and oh, now we've got to go and do this other thing to fix the something to save the world. Is like, well, no, we don't believe any of it.
You don't have the character depth moments.
Yeah.
And this is a similarity with a lot of the things we've talked about on this podcast that we've said are good, which are normally these epic scale fantasy or romance things where we've said there's space for just some really, really nicely written or acted character moments where you think, I've got time for that.
Yeah.
I've got time for that in a 3-hour movie. Like when when Jack's teaching her how to spit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they have the like spitting competition over the side of the boat, or the smaller interactions. You're right to point out Molly Brown, who has the elements of comedy of saying, son, you have the slightest idea what you're doing. You're going into the snake pit. What do you plan to wear? And gives him the sort of kind of, I don't know if it's white tie. I think it is. They're wearing tails, aren't they, at dinner?
Yeah.
All that sort of thing is so neatly done. And the film doesn't skip on conversations between Rose and her mother about the loss of their family fortune and the context around what do you do if marriage is your only option?
Yeah.
Which is that is the context that's given for the heinous engagement to Cal.
And I guess part of that is putting it in its historical context. And I think that's, you know, movies that are based on real events can really go one way or the other. And sometimes they can go so trying to tell the history and like the story of what really happened that they just become boring. Whereas I think what Titanic does is it takes the concept of what happened, and it, as I understand it, is reasonably true to the history, but it doesn't try to be a history lesson. It's more, let's take this concept and build a really good story around it.
Yes, I think people who are serious historians about the Titanic incident or about that period have serious issue with the film and say, you know, you can point out 90 inconsistencies, but that's not what we're here for.
No.
That's not what movie making is about.
No.
Generally speaking, this feels like a really decent and faithful rendition of roughly that disaster and that time period, and is really nicely done. It's so easy, before we get into the real meat of the movie, to forget the frame narrative. Every single time I watch this film, I'm like, oh wait, who are these people?
Oh, it's in modern day. Yeah, it's so confusing.
The stuff at the start where they're sort of going, you know, in the little robots down to the wreckage. What's his name's trying to find the heart of the ocean diamond, and there's a good like 20 minutes to half hour of that.
Yeah.
I like it more every time I watch it, but every single time I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, I forgot any of this.
Hang on, we're not at Jack yet.
And that does kind of resonate quite a lot now when, you know, we've had, you know, the death of the billionaires that built their own their own submarine to go down. And I think there is like a weird obsession in society, and particularly American society, with the Titanic.
Yes.
And like the obsession with the wreck, and obsession with the people on it, and like the potential for there being jewels, which is what they were playing on in the movie. Yep. And it's why people are still obsessed with like going down and, you know, doing all these crazy dangerous things to get there. But like, yeah, I mean, I as far as I understand it, James Cameron was kind of one of those people who was just really obsessed with the Titanic and the whole idea, and that submarine was all real footage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it gets you into the movie by almost acknowledging everybody's slightly macabre fascination from the start.
Yeah.
Like, if you're watching this film sure, you might have seen a trailer and thought, oh, look at that nice romance, but not really. Really, you're thinking, oh, I want to watch the Titanic movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is a disaster that I, for whatever reason, I'm interested in. And the film goes, yeah, you are.
Yeah. You're right.
Here it is, right at the start. And the frame narrative is always better acted than I remember, better scripted than I remember, has lovely little interactions on it, and provides that ever so slight comic relief where we occasionally cut away from the main action and we go back to old Lady Rose narrating something.
Yeah.
And it gets that brilliant shot where they're kind of half listening to her at the start, and then when she's halfway through her story, you see that like all the boat has come to listen.
Everyone's listening to her.
It's like story time. Everybody is like wrapped in this story as you are the viewer. And it's a very surreal experience because when you look at all their faces, it's a little bit like what would have happened if the lights had come up in the cinema and you were shown the audience, because we've all been sitting like mouth open, slack-jawed on the like romance narrative, and you realise you're being told a story.
Yeah.
And it shows it back at you, and they're all sitting around with tissues and with sort of, what happened? And she says that brilliant, do you mean, did we do it? It's so good. It's so well, it's so well designed in that sense. And it remains comic until we're really past the point where it's not funny anymore when we get into the disaster. But yeah, I'm always more impressed with the frame narrative on rewatch than I am. Mm-hmm. Now, in the body of the main content, let us address casting and character before we go any further.
Yeah.
What do we think of Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie?
They're so perfect.
Yeah.
They're just so lovely. And they're just, I mean, he is just this like beautiful boy that you just would follow, wouldn't you? You just, he's so charismatic, and he just fits that stereotype of the like working class boy, but with like a kind of joy and like aspiration, and that's gonna be a bit more worldly than her, but kind of bring her along. And then, yeah, I don't know what to say about Kate Winslet. I think I've said on like another podcast that she's the reason I dyed my hair red. Yeah. Like I just was obsessed with her. Like completely and utterly obsessed with her.
She brings a look and feel to this role that I think is incomparable, and there isn't anybody before. Like, it's not just a period piece where you've cast a pretty girl and you've put her in some nice dresses. She has an almost iconic look from whoever came up with let's have her have red hair. Let's she has an almost Venus-like quality to her, which is unfortunately the tension with why she doesn't quite look 17.
Sure, yeah.
She really looks like an adult. And you were saying, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Jack, sort of brings her along into, he's more worldly, but he feels like the younger of the two. Every time I watch it, he's got a real boyishness.
He's definitely boyish, yeah.
And she is in these terribly restrictive corsets. It's also character, but she can barely move and feels so... from when she steps out of the car at the start and looks up at the boat under her hat, if you paused it then, you would think, this is the poise and kind of gesture of someone who's 27.
Yeah, and she looks like a painting, and that's why you end up with the scene where he paints her and whatever, and you're like, yeah, I mean, you would. she's like a picture.
Sorry to go back to the frame narrative, but that's that best bit where the guy says, do you know who the lady is in the picture? Of course. The woman in the picture is me. And you're like, oh, this is going to be good. We're going to get into it. But they almost look like two people who, if you're not watching the film and you just saw promos, you can't, or like still shots, you can't really get a sense of the dynamic between the two of them. They are sort of physically misplaced. She's got a slight sort of physical presence to her. He's really like wiry and boyish. And yet somehow their dynamism just like completely works.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio in this film and the character of Jack is almost Dickensian. You know, he's got that sort of artful dodger, lost boy vibe to him.
Yeah, he's like, I'm working class, but I'm going to go and like have fun and I'm not going to care about anything that much kind of vibe.
Yeah. He's also exactly the kind of person who's like fun for this movie. Yeah. And every time I watch it and Rose says the bit about when the boat docks, I'm getting off with you, I think, now really, Rose? Like,
yeah, I mean, what's actually going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know this has been fun for 2 days. I know your 6 conversations have been very meaningful. However, let's draw up a pros and cons list.
Yeah.
Because you're engaged to the billionaire.
Yeah.
So let's just think this through. Jack is really fun, but you get the sense that his character and the enjoyment of this character only works in this film, and he sort of has to die. Like, do you see them having a real life if they got off the boat and it was all fine?
No, they would like get off and she would run away with him for like a few weeks, maybe like ending up like traveling around, seeing some things and like doing some more dancing.
Yep.
And then she'd be like, oh, okay, how am I going to like eat?
Yes.
And then there would be a coming back to mother moment, I think.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. Their love is sort of temporal and transitory, which is why the film has to be, it's why their relationship can only endure literally for the length of the film.
Yeah.
And then that is it.
It's why it's literally a tragedy in the like Shakespearean sense of the word.
Yep.
Like, it is designed to be a tragedy and you kind of know it has to be.
I was like, I think Leonardo DiCaprio at this stage, he's in Romeo and Juliet, he's in this. I'm like, can a man not survive a movie at this point?
That's true.
And I think one of the things we love about the film, and the reason it works so well as a sleepover movie, is because the barometer of emotions is so varied, but always somewhere that's like at an extreme. So when it starts, and I mean the not the frame narration, but when we actually move back to onto the boat,
yeah,
it's a riot. Some of it's a hoot.
Yeah,
you know, they're running around, they're waving to people. I'm Fabrizio in that moment where he's like, goodbye, I will never forget you, I love you. He's having the best time, and he and Leonardo DiCaprio are running around the boat in the way that the viewer is sort of going, this is extremely cool. Show me more. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Well, and one of the like most iconic moments is them dancing all in the third class underground section, and they bring her in and they're just like having more fun than she's ever had in her life.
Yep.
And that is one of those moments that just like sticks in your brain, isn't it? Is that dancing and the music.
That was one of the bits that on the initial viewing as like a 9-year-old being allowed to watch a 12. Not that like there's like anything that happens in that scene, but I remember thinking, look at that. That's life. What's that?
They're having fun.
Look at them doing adult things in adult spaces. What's happening? They're like dancing around. They're up late. That's it, isn't it? Like, it's after her bedtime.
Probably drinking.
They're drinking. They've got like Guinness.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was, but that party looks like the funnest party of all time.
Yeah.
The music is great. What's she doing? She's doing some kind of that ballet thing where she's going on point to show them,
yeah,
you know,
to show off her skills.
Yeah, you think you're all big tough men? Let's see you do this. And everyone's
it's kind of the lamest skill.
It is, but they all like look amazed, and I think it's not that good.
I suppose I couldn't do it, but
no, I know. Yes, we're sitting here judging it as something where like we couldn't do it for 1 second.
No,
but still. But yeah, that bit is great, and the film has just such a lot of positive energy before we get into the one negative cascade after another, bar the scene where they meet, which we should talk about, which is where Rose tries to jump off the boat.
Yeah, you forget how serious her situation is, and that she's really, really unhappy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the only way that she would have been swept up by a 1 or 2 day long romance, is because she is so desperately unhappy with her situation in life.
Yes, that's what I'm saying about a sort of modern therapist would maybe counsel against the extension of the relationship with Jack. He's a little bit of a sort of he's become a bit of a crutch.
Yeah, he's an escape.
He's an escape, that's right. But that scene where she hangs off the back of the boat is the first moment where you think, oh my God, I can see what this film's going to do. Right, because you've all been running about having a hoot. Fabrizio and Leonardo DiCaprio cavorting around the boat. And then we see, oh goodness, this has got a level of like personal story here that's really, really deep. And as a way for them to meet is one of the most distressing but most iconic kind of initial meetings of all time, where he talks her down coming off the back of the boat.
Yeah, I don't think that as a kid I really like fully comprehended that.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Kind of probably just was like, oh yeah, she's like sad, but didn't really think about how serious that moment is.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the things that stood out to me as a 9-year-old either.
No.
But in retrospect, it's always the bit in the movie where I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I forgot we've got... That's how they meet.
Yeah.
I always forget, for some reason in my head, she sort of chats to him while he's drawing or something, but it's not that.
Well, he does show her the drawings that he has pretty soon after that in one of the early chats up on the deck. But
yeah, that becomes their next sort of micro flirtation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That she looks at his sketchbook.
Yeah.
He's an artist. We're gonna have to get into this in the like thermometer section, but yes. Okay, but we went off on a bit of a tangent away from casting. So there's those two, but also when I watch this, I'm endlessly impressed by. I forgot how many good people are in it. Like just generally speaking, we have just had the death. I say just, but like within the last couple of months of Bernard Hill.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh, when I watched it the other day, I was like, it's got Bernard Hill as the captain. And again, can the guy not survive
No.
film? This poor guy.
Oh.
And a bunch of other people. Whoever plays Mr. Ismay, I always forget, is great. The guy who plays Mr. Andrews. Everybody in this film is, Molly Brown's character is really pulling their weight to fill out a cast, but not to detract from the fact that this is really, really, really care about two people.
And the reason that works is you have to get to know those characters in that first half in order for then their actions during the disaster to make sense.
Yes, entirely. Yes, you do. And to appreciate the sort of arrogant horror of Mr. Ismay saying, make her go faster. We want to make the morning papers. It would be great if she got into New York in double time. And you think, you arse.
Yeah.
You're such an arsehole.
And all of that stuff is setting it up. And you know it's setting it up because you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
And all those little moments where, as an audience member, you're like, I see what's happening here.
Yes.
Just sprinkled in.
Yes, the painful conversations about the fact the lifeboats would be thought to clutter the deck.
Yeah.
And you think...
And this is the kind of stuff that is a little bit historically dubious as to... That's not quite the reason why all the things happened. But for this movie, it's just like, it works so well and it really like sets that feeling that this was in some ways preventable, or at least could have been less disastrous, and that makes it ever more tragic.
Yeah, I had forgotten how many of those little conversations were inserted, actually, because on the first 500 watches, you're mainly taking in the sort of love story stuff, and Titanic has the richness of a film where every time I watch it, there's some new bit where I think, oh, I'd paid less attention to that in the past. But they do a really good job of explaining the like technical wizardry of this boat, the engineering feat that this was, and that Mr. Andrews is so devastated that it fails.
Yeah. And I think that is reasonably true. It's like it shouldn't have failed, and it was a real disaster. Like they really, really believed that it was unsinkable.
Yep. But they had the ice warning. The ice warning. And he orders the other boilers to be lit. Oh, God. It just makes you want to scream at the screen. Like, don't do it.
I know.
And again, brilliant cut back to the frame narrative where the guy's going, he's got the fucking ice warning in his hand. He's ordering the boilers to be lit. It's like 10 years of experience working against him or something. Like, the frame narrative comments on how much of a human disaster this was, as well as in... there were decisions made.
Yeah.
That made this worse.
Yeah.
Definitely.
before we move on to our categories, should we talk a little bit about the second half or the last third of the movie and just try not to completely destroy ourselves, but just talk. I mean, I think if we're talking in terms of the epicness of it, it essentially builds to the last third of the movie. And it's just shot in this incredibly beautiful but like terrifying way. It's like the colours, the dark blues and the lights, and like I think the things that really stand out to me are probably the bits where you're stuck inside of the corridors underneath. And I mean, the claustrophobia, the physical feeling of terror of being in this like water, this corridor that's just being like higher and higher and higher, and you just like genuinely don't know whether they're going to escape. And the lights flickering in those corridors so you can like see different moments as they're happening. That always sticks in my head as incredible filmmaking. And then the other piece is just like on the decks. So the moments when they're like bringing people onto the lifeboats and everyone's fighting about what order to go on the lifeboats. And obviously like the scene with the musicians that stay on and play on the deck. There's like just moments on the deck where you're like, this was the decks that just like half an hour ago we were watching this love story or watching this like these incredible people in beautiful dresses wandering about, and now it's like, it's turned into something completely different. I think those things are the ones that like really stand out to me.
I think because you're dealing with limited geography, it's a film set in the only locations you have are on the boat.
Yeah.
That's it. They can't go anywhere. You even have Cal's sort of manservant comment a few times about like, there's only so many places they could be.
Yeah.
That all these locations that have been the setting for the love story, running through the boiler room with, Rose's dress billowing, like you said, walking around the decks, the beautiful scenes in the dining room and at the clock at the top of the stairs. Suddenly, every single one of those becomes a set piece for some sort of disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
And that really enhances it. I find it so hard to talk about the last bit of this film because it's so deeply immediately traumatic. Like I have sometimes turned this film off at that point and gone, I'm done. I've enjoyed that for 2 hours and now I'm out. And I will just pretend that they don't hit the iceberg and that they turn in time.
Yeah.
But once they've hit and you have committed to that, you're in. You've sort of got to watch it.
It's like a roller coaster, isn't it? It just like kind of just keeps going, like pushes you through like it would if you were really there.
Yep.
Like you just have to keep going and going, and more things are happening, and the next thing's happening, and the next part of the disaster, and the next moment. It just like kind of on this wheel that you just have to keep going with.
You do. Sometimes I've thought to myself, oh, I'll turn it off in a second. I'll turn it off in a second. Oh no, now I've watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's it. You almost can't look away. There's a point of no return. I'm not sure I could work out what it was, but at some point. And when I was watching it most recently, I wonder if they have shot it very cleverly in that Mr. Andrews, when he lays out the plans of the boat and realises they've hit the iceberg, he details that it's going to sink in 1 hour. Basically, that's how long they have. And when I was watching it, I thought, is it that this last bit is 1 hour long?
Pretty much.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it almost sinks in real time. That you, the viewer, sit through an hour of it sinking, which is literally the time that it takes, which I thought was really clever. But when we've talked about, this is going to sound disconnected, but it is not, things like the really good battle sequences we love. We talked about Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
I know we are going to talk about the Battle of Winterfell at some point. And we always praise these battle scenes because, yes, they make you sit there for an hour and a half. But the reason they work is there are all these micro scenes within them.
Yeah.
Where you cut away to, there's this thing going on over here that I deeply care about. There's this sequence going on over here that's really affecting.
And it's the people.
And
we've set up the people already.
Yep. Yes. And we want to see where each of our heroes or where each of our little micro narratives is within the wider set piece.
Yeah.
And this does that.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. That's not, that completely makes sense.
You're like with Jack and Rose sometimes, but then you have these cutaway moments to micro disasters.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just remembered the
pieces.
couple in the bed.
That's the saddest moment of like the whole film.
Oh God.
That's contender for top sad moment.
Yeah, plus the captain.
Oh, are you going captain for your sad? Okay, let's go through the sad moments. Like we did with Return of the King.
I don't know if I can. I'll start remembering more.
Yeah, it is those cutaway moments and that's why I'm like, you cry for the last 40 minutes.
And the music as well.
The music has started.
Them staying on the boat playing the violin, and then they all kind of finish playing, and oh God.
It's when they all decide to split.
Yeah.
And then they all come back. Oh, no. I can't bear the old people in the bed.
Yeah.
I cannot bear the telling the bedtime story to the little Irish children. You know, that the land of Nig na Nog story. And I think I have to fast forward.
Oh gosh.
I can't watch it. And where the man who's tried to keep order, the guy in charge of the lifeboats, accidentally shoots Jack's friend and then shoots himself. That's awful. Where he realizes that he's lost control of the situation. So the breakdown, once we reach the point of no return where people have realized this is a fait accompli, that's it. You know, people are going to die. That's where you really get moment after moment of everybody kind of taking their own exit. The captain, awful. That's right. I can't remember whether we see Mr. Andrews die. We see him adjusting his clock.
Yeah.
And sort of looking solemn about it. I remember thinking, no, God, they've all oh, God. It's only cowardly Mr. Ismay who gets to the sodding boat.
Yeah.
Puts himself in there.
Doesn't he, like, take a baby or something?
Oh, that's Cal.
Oh, that's Cal.
That's how he gets off.
Cal, yeah.
And he says, I'm the only person she has in the world.
Yeah.
And you think, that dick.
I know.
I hate that guy. Well, we'll come to that in our thermometer section. But yeah, and I think the disaster is like a battle scene. You see the people fall off the boat when it starts to tip in the air.
Yeah.
Awful, awful moments of people hitting the propellers.
Yeah.
It just really disintegrates into, well, it loses control effectively in that bit.
Yeah.
And we've not even got to Jack and Rose.
No. Jesus.
Well, when we think about it subdivided like a battle, it's very clever, the kind of micro threat of, okay, the boat is sinking. But do you remember Jack is handcuffed?
Yes.
Although in the basement?
I do remember thinking this might be like an extra level of unnecessary threat.
Yes, that we maybe didn't need.
Like, it was already very bad.
Yes.
We don't also need him to be literally handcuffed and about to drown because he's handcuffed to the radiator or something.
You're so right. He has been framed for stealing the heart of the ocean.
Yeah.
Cal and his sort of lackey have tried to make it look like Jack stole the necklace.
Yeah.
And so they handcuff him on some like E-deck or something. And you're right, it is like, Jesus Christ, do we need this like, it's already pretty bad.
It was already going to be really hard to escape. Like, it didn't need to be more hard to escape the Titanic.
Yes. Yes. I wonder whether they did that because we needed to fill out the hour, but also, I guess otherwise it is like, Rose would have got on the boats first.
Yeah, what would they do in the time?
Yeah, like her family would have been the number one family in the queue to get on the boats.
Yeah.
They somehow needed to have her
be somewhere else.
Yeah,
try and do
waste
something
like
else.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
So that by the time it's the decision point about whether she gets rescued or not, it's like you might not make it. You basically missed your boat call at this point. And it gives all the things that you were saying about how else would we contrive the claustrophobia of the flooding scenes.
Yeah, it is terrifying.
It is terrifying. It gives the camera another reason to be back in steerage class.
Yeah.
Where they've trapped the people down there, they've locked them in.
Yes, and you keep just seeing people stuck in the corridors. There's like a child as well in the corridor.
Yeah. They're not allowed to come up to the lifeboats first, so it's just awful. But yes, I'm not sure. Every time I watch it, I think I don't need this extended sequence where Rose is trying to find an axe.
Yes. Why?
Why? Why?
Oh god.
And you just think, oh my god, I'm stressed enough. I don't need this bit.
Yeah.
Well, and then let's wrap up with the famous demise.
Yeah, in the water.
Well, I'm just going to say what everyone's thinking, which is that there was room for 2 people on that door.
But then the door might have sunk, like, you don't know.
There was room for 2 people on that door.
I don't know.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, or, I mean, obviously people don't think ahead necessarily, but when it is sinking and the dining room level has already flooded, you have Jack and Rose wading through the water, and it's when Cal starts to shoot at them. He actually fires at them at one point with the gun, and then that's when he realises, I put the diamond in the coat, and I put the coat on her!
Yeah.
But in that moment, there is a lot of float device furniture floating about.
Yeah.
And I almost want to say to people, grab an armchair.
But
Grab
would you, in the
an armchair.
moment,
No,
would
you wouldn't have done. But all I can see when I watch it is about 90 different flotation devices.
Yeah.
That would have been really good to hang on to.
I do feel like the door thing is a little bit misleading. I feel like if 2 of them were trying to hold on to the door, they would just both have been more in the water and therefore would have frozen.
Yeah. I know.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter, but I'm like, I want one of them to have picked a better flotational device to be prepared for it. But how do we feel when we get to the wrap up moments of they're in the water now and Rose is on the door?
I feel like it's just like exhaustion.
Yes.
It's like no longer sad anymore, but it is sad, but it's like no longer outwardly weeping like I have been previously throughout the last 40 minutes previous to that. It's just like this level of like exhaustion, and that almost is representative of how they are as well.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of holding on and that's it.
That's it. You, the viewer, are absolutely wrung out by that point.
Yeah.
By the point they're in the water and the ship has sunk. And there's a brilliant kind of like wide shot of it as well, where you just suddenly see ocean. The boat's not there.
Yeah.
And you see all the little people, like ants, just
Lights.
in the water.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, now it's silent and scary. Like now it's, oh my God, you're just
Terrifying.
alone in the North Atlantic.
Yeah.
I would have kept talking to him. I'm just going to say, like, keep him talking.
Yeah, but if you're also in that situation, you're not really surviving either. She hardly survives.
True. I just can't bear it when she thinks they've made it.
Yeah.
And she thinks the boat is back. And it is. You know, she sees the light moving in the distance and you get the, Jack,
Yeah.
the boats are back. Jack. I can't take it. She like moves his arm and you just think, please God, wake up. Please be awake. And then it takes her that excruciating amount of time to take the decision to let him go in the water and to swim off.
And she blows the whistle. Tries to blow the whistle at least.
Yeah, and you think blow the whistle faster,
Yeah.
blow the whistle faster, Rose.
God.
Let the boat come, hurry.
Yeah.
But you're right, by that point, the really sad moments that happen mid-sinking are sort of done, and you can't really cry again until we get the death montage of her seeing him at the top of the stairs.
Yes.
And everybody clapping.
Yes. Yeah.
And at that point,
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
No.
It's over.
Just give
I'm
up.
done. I give up. And that close-out montage, I'm just like, I can't. And all the people are there smiling and clapping, and the captain's there. Oh, I can't. It makes sense that she has to die at the end.
Yeah, it's too much.
That is it. Okay, I'm done.
All right,
Let's go to our
categories.
Bloody hell, this
Where
film.
are we starting?
The thermometer
The
category.
thermometer.
Ooh, this is interesting.
How many degrees out of 100 would you rate this very tragic movie in terms of hotness?
How hot is this historical disaster film?
Should we rate it as if we were 10 or as if we're now? Because when we were 10...
Both. Yeah,
Yeah.
both. Because you're right. That's the challenge with this question. It's very different. Yeah, when I was 9 or something, I thought this was the hottest thing I'd ever seen.
I mean, it probably was the hottest thing we'd ever seen.
I think it was.
The carriage and the hand?
It has actual nudity in it.
Literally the hottest thing we'd ever seen.
Yeah, you're right. There is implied sexual content.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, it's 12.
I know, but come on.
Yeah, no, I would have gone like full 100 on this, in that like this was, this was one of the hottest things. Bar like Disney's cartoon Anastasia.
Yeah.
It's not even Disney. Oh, what character? Dimitri. Anyway, very Jack-like, but whatever. That's a segue. I would have given this like a 90 or 100 on the hotness scale. What about you when you first saw it?
Oh yeah. At the time, yeah, definitely 90 or 100. Yeah. It was like a formative moment of like, ooh, okay, yeah, like stuff we'd never seen before.
Yes, this was an elevation from basically Disney movies. Yeah, we were watching kids' films before this.
We would watch films where, like, the climax of a romance would be two people, like, kissing, like, making out, maybe.
Yep, and then they get married.
But that was it.
Yes, you're right. The like, explicit content, and we'll have to do a separate, like, coffee break episode on, like, where can you remember the step up in books and films coming from? Yeah. Like, the Titanic is almost the equivalent of when we were all at school and all read Noughts and Crosses.
Yes. I loved that book.
Your face really remembered that at that time. Like, wait, is this a book that's in our like children's school library, but that has an implied sex scene in it?
Yes.
And that book was the most borrowed book from the school library. It's actually again like a great book. It's a very serious book.
A very devastating and serious book.
These are both very serious, devastating books and films.
Yeah.
But they happen to be accessible to 10-year-olds. And have slightly elevated content. So I thought this was one of the hottest things. Now, especially when we situate this in the podcast and we think about its other comparisons, 30 degrees?
Yeah, I was going to say like 40 or 50. Like, I still think that the romance and the like sexy side of the romance is done well. But obviously it's not like that explicit, and
it's not smouldering.
No.
It's pretty fun. Yeah. And I love their love, but I don't watch it and think, whoa, oh my God.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I did at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
What is going on here? But now, although I would say artistic shout out to, we consume so much of this romantic crap, and so much of it is discussed on the podcast. There are only so many ways you can contrive to have a slightly sexy scene. Mm. And a lot of the time, films will repeat the same sort of patterning. I think it is quite a genuinely unique feature to have. I do think the drawing scene is quite good.
Yeah.
From the point of view of like a like erotic set piece.
Yeah.
In many ways. It's quite different.
And it's part of Rose kind of letting go of her self and being a bit free. But yeah, it's also like, yeah, super hot.
Like, it's been parodied so many times that you forget its originality.
Yeah.
And we're so used to like, various rehashes of similar. Like, it's like, how do you get your characters to the point where it's now reached like a really sexy level?
Yeah.
I imagine when people were talking about the script for this and being like, no, he's gonna draw her, that someone in that room would have been like, wait, what? Like, sorry, what? Can't they just kiss? Or, like, what is the escalation from them just having a conversation to how do we increase the hotness level?
Yeah.
It's actually quite an artistic way of doing it.
Yeah, I think so.
I know, well, that's quite clever. That's a really good part of the romance. The thing with the hand, I'm always like, is it hot or is it funny?
I think at the time it was hot.
At the time it was hot. Now I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? Like, whose car is this? And at one point, they're like, I can't help notice they're wearing things they weren't wearing before. There's a bit where Rose is in a sort of towel, and I'm like, where did this towel come from? What on earth?
Yeah, I'll forgive it. It's like the steam and the hand. Like, it's at the time it was hot.
It was hot at the time. Yeah, okay. But you're right, in terms of overall steaminess. And now, this is the problem when you watch this film over a period of about 20-something years. Occasionally I watch this film and I'm like, now, Rose, Cal is not a bad-looking guy.
But he's meant to be
not.
evil.
Again, he has some qualities. And even occasionally in his one or two evil moments, there are bits when I think, oh, wow. And then I think, wow, what's wrong with me? It's like watching Gladiator and realising you fancy Joaquin Phoenix's character. And you're like, why? What is this? No, he is obviously out and out bad, especially by the end. But in the interim, there is a really grey area where, especially when I was watching it the other day, I thought, Rose, you're also a dick back to him. Like, he really does try. I mean, I know he's awful, but he has a conversation with her about, he even says, I think he says, open your heart to me, Rose. Like, he wants a relationship with her, albeit on his extremely fucked up terms. And it is incredibly misogynistic, and there is a lot of discussion about her being his property, etc., etc. But she is giving him the cold shoulder from moment one.
Well, maybe she is just 17.
Yeah, I was just trying to build my, like, Cal defenseless squad. But also acknowledging at the end that he's a baddie.
Yeah, he's a baddie. All right, how about badassery?
Oh, God. How badass is Titanic? Like, I obviously want to say, like, not at all, because there's, like, no fight, there's no weapons and cool things, and this isn't one of the things that we're going to rate for it being, like, awesome action content. And yet, at the same time, I did just compare the disaster to a battle, so I'm struggling with this category.
Yeah, I'd say the filmmaking is badass, but the content is not badass.
Yes.
It was badass to be able to make something as impressive as that, and to put together that scene, and to, like, create such a huge epic piece of work. Like, it's epic. I think we've used that word a million times. But yeah, like, the characters are not, like, particularly badass. None of them are going to be like, yeah, they're really cool, I really want to be like them. They're not, like, fighting for anything particularly. They're not, like, Rose is, like, minimally, actually not even really at all badass. She's like,
no, she spits in Cal's face at one point, and that's about it.
And ultimately, it's not about, the disaster is not about them all, like, fighting back against something. It's just completely out of everyone's control. And therefore, there's not really many heroic moments. It's just disastrous.
The nemesis is an iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
The big bad is a rock.
Yeah, it's like a natural disaster, basically. And you can't really be badass against it.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, obsession fuel. Oh my God.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
If we're doing it in our fuel tank levels, like, I think it probably is quite low. I probably am only going to give it like a fifth of a tank or something. But the only reason that I would give it some level, apart from, like, the obsession with rewatching it, is that, like, obsession with the idea of Titanic itself.
Yeah.
And that obsession with the historical context, that obsession with, like, knowing what really happened, with people wanting to know the names of all the people on the boat and how many people were in third class and second class and first class that died, and what was the gender split, and understanding what would have happened in those last few moments and why it all happened. And I don't think we ever went down that road of getting super into the history, but I think there is a bit of fuel there for people that, and it is one of those historical moments that people do really obsess about.
Yeah, that's right. And as it continued, and whenever there's, like, a Titanic exhibition or Titanic something on a museum, like, people go and go in droves. You have already referenced the recent, what would we call it? Like, pod capsule disaster? What were they doing? What was it? They were in a sort of
It was a submarine, but
submarine.
It was basically a home-built one. And these do exist, of people that are essentially millionaires, billionaires with too much money and time on their hands who build machines to do all sorts of things, but specifically submarines is a particularly dangerous one.
Yeah. But that news story,
went crazy.
When people were following it live. I was following it. Like, why am I watching this? But it absolutely gripped everybody for about a week.
And it gripped everybody because of the connection to the Titanic, and also that kind of almost that like emotional tie to the Titanic with it was these rich people who were like indulging in this like bizarre obsession, and you're kind of like, what are you doing?
No, it was a parallel within a parallel. It was another maritime disaster within a maritime disaster setting. It was like,
absolutely.
Why would you put yourself in jeopardy?
Yeah.
In the North Atlantic
again.
Well, here we go. Personal question then, which is, let's say they come up with a slightly safer way of doing it. It's like that question about if you had the money and someone gave you a ticket on like SpaceX or whatever. You know, people say, would you go into space? Would you go down to the Titanic wreck?
I would be more likely to go into space than I would be to go down to the bottom of the ocean.
I would probably do neither. But if you forced me, I agree. I would pick the space one.
We know less about the ocean than we do about space.
I genuinely find it one of the most frightening concepts. Like, I think you probably could not pay me to do it.
No, I wouldn't do it.
Which is ironic, because we were talking about this is people paying millions and millions of pounds to be able to do this.
Yeah.
If you offered me millions of pounds, I couldn't do it.
No, I think the claustrophobia just would be completely impossible.
It's so desperately macabre. I can't think of anything more frightening than sort of being at the site of a wreckage while also very aware of your own mortality under the crushing depth of, like, even as I'm talking about it, it's just the most terrifying thing.
Also, we can send pods down without people in and they send us footage back and it's enough. Thank you.
That's right. Send the robots. Yes. Don't send people. No, 100%. And then also on this theoretical question of, you know, would you? At what age would you? Because we're old now. This film we've aged out of like the watching it as a kid or watching it as a teenager experience. We now are in the position of power of, at what age would you show a kid this film?
Oh my goodness.
Because this has got to be one of the ones where you're like, and now it is time to watch this. You'll probably say, okay, so we're going to Alicia's house. And there is a very set movie schedule.
Little baby Rose, would you like to? Oh no!
Oh, there's no parallel here. What's happened? It's a complete coincidence.
I think 11 is fine.
Yeah. I would agree. I actually think follow the age certificate on it.
Yeah.
I think I was allowed to watch it early just because it had been such a big deal that...
Yeah, 9, 10 feels very young.
Yeah, I think
11
was.
11 probably feels okay, and by 12 I'd be like, yeah, of course you can see this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you and I will be faced once again with that conundrum of, we may show it to people being like, this is a cultural moment. And they'll be like, this is trash. I don't want to watch it. We're like, no, you don't understand. You have to watch this. Also, in terms of obsession fuel, we can't ignore that, like, how much this has passed into popular culture and parody, from the standing on the boat with their arms out.
Yeah.
You know, it's even like, it's in Love Actually.
Yeah. And the song. Like Celine Dion. We haven't even mentioned Celine Dion yet.
And the song, I'm not sure. I think I would struggle to think of a more iconic, like, film song.
Yeah.
As it were.
Well, because it's not just from the credits, it's used in the movie, isn't it? It's like, it is the theme, essentially.
Yes, exactly. That theme, the My Heart Will Go On music plays over and over again in the film, and then you get the sort of
the
lyrics,
song version
in
the
version
credits,
at the end. But it was also, even before half the people had watched the film, this was the primary school disco slow dance song in the late 90s. And I think even at our school discos at secondary school, it was the absolute, this is the number one slow dance song at the end of the disco, was Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. And when
why did we put ourselves through that?
I don't know. And also, like, what was it with like DJs of the late 90s thinking, aha, this is
This romance disaster movie.
this is the romance song. It was great though when they did, this was a super experience, they did the re-release of, now what must it have been? Maybe like the 15-year re-release? We were at Oxford. Did you go and see it when they re-released it in cinemas?
No, I don't think I did.
Luke and I went.
Yeah.
As a kind of, I don't know, just what to do on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it was a thing to see it in the cinema.
Yeah.
It really was, which obviously none of us had done.
No.
Because the best we had was Claire's television.
Yeah.
The television we watched it on at home the first time was like one of those squares. Like a tiny square. But if they do, so in 3 years, it'll be the 30-year.
Oh my goodness.
That's frightening.
That would be amazing.
Is this, sub-question, is this the oldest content we have talked about on the podcast?
Buffy?
Good
Around
point.
the same time?
Buffy, same year, or 96, 97.
Yeah.
And we have technically talked about Star Wars, which the old
Yes,
ones.
we did talk about the original
Okay.
Star Wars.
Star Wars is winning at the moment for oldest content. I was just thinking, it's very rare that we're often saying like, or we spend a lot of the time saying, and this was coming up to its 20-year anniversary. Or, we know we're going to talk about The Notebook, which has just had its 20-year anniversary. But this is going to come up to 30. If they re-release it, I will go.
Yeah.
Again.
That would be awesome.
In the cinema. We should all go.
Yeah.
It's a plan.
This film does go on.
And on.
And on.
And on. You've been listening to the Fangirl Diaries. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Diaries Pod.
And do share us with any of your friends that you think might enjoy the podcast, and rate or review us on Spotify or Apple Music.